The manhwa begins with our main protagonist named Edith Rigglehoff, who's walking inside a marriage hall where her future husband is already waiting for her. Despite the flawless ceremony fitting a ducal household, Edith was worried about everything, mentally reassuring her not to worry. As Edith makes his way towards her future husband, she notices the looks of the guest attending the ceremony clearly portrays hatred and disregard towards her. But there are also who look at her with a lustful gaze. Edith wonders why all the bad things kept happening with her. She reminisces about her past life. When her older brother was asking her for money, she asked if he was gambling again, which angers her brother. He asked if she had forgotten who supported her all this time. She questions him how he will pay her back the money that he borrowed. This made the guy really angry, and in a fit of rage, he pushed her down the stairs. This tragic event became the cause of her premature demise. Upon waking up, Edith discovers herself in a different body and contemplates if she has been transmigrated to another world. A maid entering the room addresses her as Lady Edith, prompting surprise. Hearing her new name, Edith realizes that she is now a character in the novel Letting Go of the Obsession, a story she had read overnight before her unexpected journey into this new reality. Suddenly, Edith recalls Reese Sinclair, described as bright, pure, and beautiful like the goddess of spring. Eli's faced persecution within her own family due to her low birth, but her fate took a turn when she caught the attention of the Duke and Duchess of Redwig. They brought her to live as a lady in their household. Upon arriving at the Redwig mansion, Elise becomes entangled in a fierce competition between the two protagonists of the novel, creating a neck-and-neck rivalry with no room for compromise as they vie for Elise's affection. This intense competition marks the beginning of the obsession referred to in the title. In the story, Edith Rigglehoff's role is that of a simple, foolish, and greedy character, a villainess blinded by love and tainted with jealousy. Her continuous actions involve targeting and attempting to sabotage Elise, realizing that her character is effortlessly overcome each time. Edith's role is designed to serve as an obstacle, paving the way for Elise's smooth and successful journey, akin to a supporting character in the protagonist's storyline. Meanwhile, Edith sat in a chair and waited for the maids to make her up. While thinking about the Edith of the novel who was blinded by jealousy, she did everything in her power to kill Reese. She grew up being doted on as a spoilt nobleman's child, without ever worrying about money. After some time, the maids inform Edith that her makeup is complete. Upon seeing herself in the mirror, Edith is pleasantly surprised by her own beauty. The maid then informs her that her father is waiting for her. Edith expresses gratitude to the maid and leaves the room to meet her father. As she runs down the corridor, she thinks she just has to fix Edith's mistake. She remembers the novel, so it won't be too difficult for her. She thinks this life is better than her previous one. She contemplates if she did well this time around, she might receive family's love without a price to pay. As Edith reaches her father's room and opens the door, she cheerfully greets him with a good morning. However, her fantasy is quickly shattered when her father questions if it isn't too late to call it morning. Shocked by his response, Edith is ordered to stop messing around, and her father instructs her to close the door. It seems her expectations for a warm reception were swiftly dashed. Suddenly, Edith receives a notification indicating that she is Edith Rigglehoff, number 13, and the identity check has been completed. Simultaneously, another notification informs her that memory synchronization has started. During this process, she goes through a portal and witnesses memories of Edith. In one poignant scene, Edith is kneeling in front of her father, desperately begging for forgiveness, vowing never to make that mistake again. Meanwhile, the girl observing Edith is shocked as she realizes that the pretentious and arrogant villainess, with her conceited attitude, was nothing but a mere facade. Through the memory synchronization, she witnesses another poignant scene of Edith locked in a basement, desperately pleading with her father to let her out. In a different memory, Edith's brother approaches her, emphasizing that she has to repay the kindness of those who fed and raised her. These glimpses into Edith's past paint a complex picture of her struggles and the challenges she faced within her family. The girl realizes that Edith was merely a walking advertisement for the family, adorned with glamorous dress and expensive jewelry. She was an easy target for venting frustration at home, picked on even by the servants, and considered Count Rigglehoff's most expensive doll. Suddenly, the girl finds herself standing next to the tormented and beaten up Edith. Edith then asks her how she feels about what she has witnessed and questions whether she could cope with her life in her place, causing the girl to flinch. Brought back to reality, Edith's father angrily calls for her, frustrated that she can't seem to pull herself together since the morning. He sternly warns Edith not to make any mistakes that day, especially with the Rudwicks feeling angsty about the situation. He asks her if remember the details of the negotiation. She has to tell them that she will bring 3 maids with her as her personal servants, emphasizing that it's the only way they could proceed to the next step. Edith, feeling trapped, wonders why her family is like this, whether in her previous life or this new one. After a while, Edith and her father, accompanied by a butler, stood outside. Edith thought to go over the information again. Since she was little, there has been a rivalry between the current Duke Rudwick and the Count Rigelhoff. In her little understanding, both families had similar status initially, but Duke Rudwick's elevation to his title after wartime success fueled the Count's belief that it was unjustly taken from him. Edith's marriage to Rudwick's second son was a strategic move to gather information to bring down the Duke and reclaim what the Count perceived as rightfully his. Eventually, thinking about all this made Edith really sad. Despite the emotional turmoil, Edith encouraged herself not to cry and saw this challenging situation as an opportunity. She thinks everything will be fine, as she has developed a knack for finding a way to survive in harsh situations, and therefore she understood the fact that if she did not behave in the same way as Edith in the original work, then she would definitely be able to survive somehow. Acknowledging the common occurrence of crises for heroines in such novels, she resolved to behave differently from Edith in the original story to ensure her survival. Arriving at the magnificent mansion, the girl marveled at its grandeur and speculated that the opulence might be a source of unease for Count Rigelhoff in comparison to Ludwig. As they approached, the father engaged in conversation with his son about the estate. The son commented on its beauty, and the father expressed skepticism about the excessive luxury since the interior was entirely empty. Greeted by a butler who announced the Duke and Duchess waiting inside, the Count, with a kind tone, invited his daughter to join them, extending his hand. Surprised by the sudden change in her father's attitude, the girl, feeling embarrassed, had no choice but to accept his proposal. She reassured herself, thinking they wouldn't be staying in this house for long. They'd be leaving in a week. A few seconds later, the butler ushered Count Rigelhoff and his family into the hall where the Duke and Duchess were seated, introducing the Count's family to them. Edith was pleasantly surprised to see the characters from the novel come to life, finally laying eyes on Duke Axel Rudwick, Duchess Jocelyn Rudwick, and the characters she had only imagined from the book. The Duchess, smiling sweetly, expressed gratitude to the Rigelhoff family for making the journey and announced that the table would soon be ready for them to eat. Edith couldn't help but notice the striking features of the characters, especially Cliff, the main character, who she found incredibly handsome with golden eyes. Reese, resembling a spring goddess, left Edith in awe of her breathtaking beauty. Then Edith looked at the man sitting next to Reese and realized that he was her future husband. She asked herself if she had fallen in love with him at first sight. She now understood why Edith of the novel had held onto him so highly. He had a sharp, straight nose and a defined jawline. He gave the impression of being both sensitive and cruel. He also has a broad chest and a slender waist, while his thighs were muscular. Edith marveled at his features, questioning how a person could look so perfect. Suddenly, the man's intense gaze caught Edith off guard, making her flinch. She quickly gathered herself, reminding that she needed to stay focused. Impressing him wasn't a priority. Later, as Edith enjoyed her meal, her father initiated conversation. He expressed to the Duke of Rudwick that a parent's heart is never at ease, no matter what they provide for their child. Edith realized that things were finally starting. Edith's father continued, asking the Duke of Rudwick if his daughter could bring a few maids with her after the marriage. He mentioned that the maids who had been with her for so long would be more accustomed to her preferences. The Duchess awkwardly smiled and assured Edith's father that the maids in her household were not inferior in skill to any others. Edith's father, wearing a dark expression, asked the Duke if the Duchess hadn't brought any maids with her when she got married to him. The question hung in the air, causing a tense silence to envelop the entire room. Edith contemplates that the request is not something that can be turned down, as there is no valid argument to reject it. With a smile, she assures her father that she'll be fine and apologizes to the Duke for her father's request. Edith explains that her father is merely concerned about her, still seeing her as his innocent and inexperienced child. In the carriage, Edith's father scolds her, expressing frustration at her lack of helpfulness and the obstacle she created. Edith then asks her father if he hadn't seen the expression on Duke Rudwig's face before. With a dramatic tone, she further asks him if he even knows how much her heart raced when he suddenly demanded that. She could tell from the looks on everyone's faces that they were suspecting why he wanted her to bring more maids. She further stated that this marriage was arranged with the intention of erasing any suspicion regarding their family. But if his request makes them have any doubt, then what good will come? Upon hearing his daughter's impassioned speech, Count Riegelhoff was momentarily speechless. Edith urged him to think carefully about the potential consequences if she were to go there alone. She assured him that, with her alone, nothing would happen, and the ducal family might let their guard down. Her brother blushed as he recalls Reese. The girl emphasized the need to dispel suspicions urgently and proposed gaining trust before pretending to be homesick or asking for her maid. Hearing this, the man began to think about what his daughter had said, and she asked him to trust her. Starting from that day, Edith faced a tense week, walking on a knife's edge. But the day finally arrived when she would stand at the wedding altar with her husband. Walking alongside her husband at the altar, Edith feels a sense of relief, knowing she doesn't have to return to her previous house. The priest finishes the prayer and asks the newlyweds to stand opposite each other. Turning to the god Hershen, he requests a blessing on the wedding rings and the eternal covenant sealed within them. The priest mentions that after the exchange of rings, the ritual will be completed. Two children then carry the rings on a lush pillow, and Edith finds them cute. Edith then glanced at Killian, who had a dark expression on his face. Edith thinks in her head that she understands how he feels, so she decided to finish the ceremony quickly. Edith then extended her hand, and Killian swiftly puts a ring on her finger and immediately withdrew his hand away from her. Edith thinks he even dislikes touching her for a brief moment. She finds him childish. As Edith tries to pick up the ring, she suddenly stopped because Killian took the ring and put it on himself. The guests started to laugh and Edith stood there frozen and did not know what to do. She then clutches her hand and tries to maintain her dignity as she has no intention of pursuing him anyways. She then pats the kids and tells them that they did great. Edith moves towards Killian, who look at her with a disgust. Edith thinks to herself that a life where she can relax with no fear of being beaten up by her father or her older brother is all she wants in this life. Later, Edith, finding relief in shedding the tight dress, experiences a sense of newfound freedom as she rests on her bed. An unexpected knock on the door interrupts her moment of solace. To her surprise, Reese enters, prompting Edith to inquire about her visit, to which she tells her that she wanted to say something. Edith then remembers that there was an episode like this in the novel, right after the wedding, in which Reese went to find Edith after the wedding was over in order to apologize on behalf of Killian for his rude behavior. However, the well-intentioned apology ended up exacerbating Edith's emotional wounds. Unable to confront Killian directly, Edith redirected her frustration towards Reese. Edith thinks that the novel's Edith had every right to be upset. She tells herself that there's no reason for her to get angry, as she's not the real Edith. Reese tells her that she wants to apologize on behalf of Killian, and she hopes she didn't resent him. She continues by stating that even though Killian appears cold on the surface, he is the most sensitive person she had ever known. Edith thinks that she cannot hate someone as pretty as Reese. She has radiant blonde hair that shines like the sun itself. Her eyes are like a large pool of crystal clear water, pure and transparent. Not only is she beautiful, but she also has a heart full of kindness and justice. She contemplates that her idea that for survival in a villainous reincarnation story is to befriend someone like her. Edith reassures Reese that there's no need to worry, emphasizing that despite their arranged marriage, she harbors no resentment towards Killian. Reese, curious, asks if Edith genuinely means it. Edith, in response, expresses her sincerity, prompting Reese to beam with gratitude, appreciating Edith's kindness. Edith, deeply impressed by Reese, humbly insists that she pales in comparison to Reese's qualities. Their conversation is interrupted by a maid announcing that Edith's bath is ready. Reese, realizing the duration of their interaction, promptly apologizes to Edith and mentions that she'll be taking her leave. Edith expresses gratitude towards Reese and assures her that they will meet again tomorrow. Alone, Edith begins to undress, pondering whether the wedding episode has concluded. She reassures herself that she can finally rest. As she reclines in the warm bath, The soothing sensation rekindles a sense of vitality within her, providing a welcome reprieve from the preceding events. Edith reflects on her new status as the Duke's daughter-in-law, realizing that maids will always be there to prepare her bath. She contemplates the absence of the internet, but is content, considering the freedom from work and household chores. Edith welcomes the relief from financial concerns and the challenges posed by her gambler older brother, finding solace in her changed circumstances. Edith wonders how busy she used to be when she was going to the operas, hunting competition, picnic, party, and ball in her previous life. Just then, Killian enters the bathroom, which makes Edith flinch. He tells her that she took a bath alone before her husband even arrived, and tells her that she's a cruel wife. Edith looks at Killian and questions herself about his sudden appearance, as she knew that in the original novel Killian didn't come to the bridal chamber. Killian questioned her why she looked surprised. Is there any person who will enter the bride's chamber besides him? Edith in reply tells him that she didn't expect him to come. Killian told her that it looks like she has some sense of awareness. Edith responds by questioning him. How could she not be aware? During the wedding, he made sure that she couldn't put the ring on his finger. Killian then leans at her and asks if she expected him to be passionate. Edith thought how ridiculous it is to be both wicked and handsome like this. She tells herself that there is no reason for her to be mean to Killian, and honestly, as she doesn't even have the energy to get angry. She then tells Killian that she just said what happened. She further tells him that seeing how he avoids contact with her, she just assumes that he wouldn't come to her room. Edith then asks Killian if he's planning to spend the night here, which makes him flinch. He angrily turns to leave the room. Once Killian left the room, Edith, puzzled, wonders why he even came. As Killian walking down the corridor, Reese called him from behind. She asks if he's the one who came out of Bride's room. Killian reveals that he was there, but she also had no expectation for tonight. Reese asks what happened, to which Killian revealed that she was half asleep in the bathtub. Reese tells Killian that she's pretty sure that Edith was waiting for him earlier. Killian interrupting her and tells her that she always sees only good things in people. He continues by stating that Riegelhoff are nothing but insincere scum that lies to others while having a smile on their face. He tells Reese that there is no need for her to think good things about them. Reese contemplates Killian's words, questioning if Edith's statement was indeed a lie. Killian interrupts her thoughts, asking what Edith had told her. Reese responds, mentioning Edith's compliment about her dress, pondering if she was too caught up in the happiness of the compliment to discern Edith's true intentions. Killian asks Reese if Edith tried to mess with her just for a dress. He wonders how upset Edith must have been about that. Killian told Reese that she just had to look at the dress Edith was wearing to realize that she must have been conscious of her own dress. He criticizes Edith's choice of dress at the wedding, describing it as flashy and overly extravagant, lacking good taste, and even goes so far as to label her a vulgar woman for wearing it. Reese, outraged, shouts at him for calling his own wife vulgar. Killian accuses Reese of cruelty and asks if that's the only thing she has to say to him. As Reese was about to say something to Killian, their conversation was interrupted by Cliff, who asked what are they doing this late here. Reese responded with a cheerful smile directed at Cliff, and this sudden change in dynamics caused Killian's mood to darken unexpectedly. The next morning, Edith wakes up feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep in her new bed. She's amazed that she managed to wake up early, considering all she went through the previous day. Recognizing the endurance of her 22-year-old healthy body, she reflects on the positive changes her current situation has brought. Edith contemplates that at least in this life she doesn't have to worry about her health. She wonders if she plays her card in the right way, she might be able to live a peaceful life as a lovely daughter-in-law. She thinks in her head that although Killian is one of the main characters devoted to the female lead of this story, maybe his parents are not the same as him. Edith considers that Killian's parents are the same Duke and Duchess who warmly welcomed Reese, hoping for a positive relationship. She believes they might warm up to her too. Despite the initial discomfort during their first meeting, she decides to begin her day by greeting them, aiming to build a connection with Killian's family. Edith thinks that the best way to survive as the villainess of a romantic novel is by winning the main character's heart. She further thinks if she genuinely wants to survive in the Rudwig house, she needs the favor of the Duke and Duchess, who has much more power than Killian. She told herself that her ultimate goal is to live quietly while enjoying the luxurious suites. And she realizes that to reach her desired goal, it's necessary for her to earn the favor of Rudwig family. Edith then rings the service bell and a maid arrives, asking if she called her. Edith orders the maid to prepare something to her face and bring her dress, to which the maid agrees. Edith then asks the maid what her name was, to which the maid reveals that her name is Anna. As Anna brought Edith's dresses, Edith asked her if there's nothing else than these suggestive and fancy dresses, to which Anna replied in affirmative. Edith realizes that greeting her parents-in-law in a vulgar dress would be counterproductive. She instructs her maid Anna to visit the seamstress room and request coverage for the breast area of the dress. Edith also asks for the removal of bombastic adornments. Anna agrees, and Edith takes steps to modify her attire for a more suitable and refined appearance. Once Anna left the room, Edith thought that yesterday was the day her married life started. She wonders if she should drop some blood on the bed, but decided not to, as Killian wouldn't like that at all. Edith reflects that it would have been a different scenario if he were the Killian from the original story, as he would have been extremely concerned about any injury on Reese's body. Edith thinks that it would be great if she could have a handsome and caring man. Just then, Edith reminisces about the last night when Killian suddenly appeared in her bathtub. She questions why he even came to her room yesterday. She wonders if he's trying to pick a fight with her. She thinks, whatever it was, it's nice to see his face once in a while. Anna's call brings Edith back to reality. Anna informs her that she's finished with her hair, and the modified clothing she requested has arrived. Edith expresses her gratitude to Anna for the completed tasks. In her thoughts, Edith contemplates the idea of going crazy and reminds herself not to fall for Killian, no matter what happens. Later, Edith arrived to meet the Duke and Duchess. She greeted them both, and they reciprocated the greetings. The Duchess told her that she's pleased that Edith came to see her, even though she must have been tired from yesterday. Edith reflects privately that the Duke and Duchess are likely aware that Killian did not spend the night with her. The Duke inquires if Edith is aware of her duties as a part of the ducal family. Edith responds, stating that she understands her responsibilities include handling administrative duties and organizing documents. She acknowledges that these are not the only duties, and expresses her willingness to learn. Edith requests the Duke's guidance, assuring him that she will make an effort to learn as quickly as possible. The Duke mentions that he thought the Count must have taught Edith beforehand. Edith falls silent after hearing the Duke's statement, realizing that his gaze isn't favorable, but he's practically asking her directly if she's here to steal the private document. Edith responds to the Duke, expressing her willingness to learn any other activities if he can't trust her with administrative duties. The Duchess intervenes, subtly urging the Duke to be less stern with Edith. The Duchess then acknowledges that they can see Edith has been appropriately educated by the Count. The Duchess invites Edith to assist her with duties for the next 2 weeks, a proposal Edith agrees to. When Edith asks to be introduced to someone who could show her the mansion, the Duchess was about to say Killian's name, but decided not to. She tells Edith that she will call the right person for that. Edith, in her mind, thinks her expression clearly says that she knows Killian didn't slept with her in the bride's room. Edith informs the Duke and Duchess that she will be leaving now. Once outside, Edith thinks that she knew the meeting with the Duke and the Duchess would be tough. Just then, someone interrupted Edith by asking if she's alright, to which Edith tells the person that she was just a little nervous. Glancing at the individual, she finds out that the person is Baron Lennon Filch. Edith greets the Baron, expressing her delight at meeting him. Baron Lennon Filch is the assistant provided by the Duchess to help Edith with her duties in the mansion. Renowned as the most trustworthy man of the Duke for organizing documents, he holds a crucial role similar to Anna, the maid assigned to her. However, Edith realizes that he is a character she has never heard of in the story, making her a bit nervous due to the lack of information about him. Baron asks Edith if she has any questions and mentions that if there are none, they should proceed as they don't have much time today. In her thoughts, Edith reflects that small moments like this make her feel like she's not inside a book, but in a new reality, highlighting the peculiar blend of familiarity and novelty in her current situation. As they move, Edith realizes that those who weren't main characters in the original story are characterized as being more straightforward or blunt. A few moments later, Baron leads Edith to the jewelry exhibition room, informing her that it houses the duchy's family jewels, suitable for various special occasions. He then takes her to a room containing weapons and armor, explaining that these items are primarily used by the Duke and both young masters. Edith is surprised to learn that the armor and weapons were crafted by renowned artisans. Their next stop is the Great Library, where numerous rare books are gathered, providing Edith with a glimpse into the wealth of knowledge contained within the mansion. Edith is shocked by the sheer number of books within a single library. Edith inquires with Baron Linen Filch about the accessibility of the places they visited, asking if special permission is still required. The Baron assures her that any family member can enter these locations at any time. He adds that they can also visit the Sistine Hall, where new works of art are displayed every month. Edith's interest is piqued, realizing that she now has the privilege of attending art exhibitions at home, something she couldn't afford in her past life due to high ticket prices. A few minutes later, Baron Linen Filch guides Edith to the Sistine Hall. Overwhelmed by its beauty, Edith is left breathless, unable to find words. The Baron informs her that due to the mansion's size, he won't be able to show her all the rooms today, concluding the tour. Edith expresses gratitude, remarking on the pleasant surprise of living in such a beautiful place. Unexpectedly, Edith compliments Baron on his beautiful voice and eloquence, revealing that she didn't notice how quickly time passed. The Baron is taken aback by her words and even blushes. Despite this, he humbly states that he only did what was expected. The Baron then proposes to continue the tour of the remaining estate locations the day after tomorrow, a suggestion Edith gladly accepts. As Baron Linen, Filch, and Edith continue their tour, they reach a place called the Great Meeting Room. The Baron explains that this location is often used when guests visit the ducal family, as it offers a convenient view of the estate's courtyard. Edith suddenly notices Killian, Reese, and Alex sitting in the Great Meeting Room. Her demeanor changes abruptly, becoming quiet and gloomy. Baron Linen Filch realizes it was a mistake to let her see Killian and Reese in this context, glancing at Edith as the atmosphere shifts. Baron questions why Killian is in the Great Meeting Room on a day like this. Edith, in her thoughts, reflects on seeing Killian drinking tea with another woman earlier in the day, acknowledging that it would be normal to expect her to feel flustered. She then contemplates what the Edith of the original story would have done in this situation, pondering the potential reactions. Edith then glances at the Killian, who smiles brightly and appears to be in a good mood. Edith finds his behavior completely different from last night. Edith reassures herself that, at least for now, she doesn't particularly care about how or with whom Killian decides to spend his time, emphasizing her detachment from his actions. Smiling, Edith agrees with Baron Linen Filch that the Great Meeting Room is indeed a wonderful place, noting that the garden must look even more impressive when spring arrives. The Baron is a bit taken aback by her positive remark, but acknowledges that it is indeed the case. Edith expresses her anticipation of being able to come there from now on, and suggests they continue the tour. She asks if they should get going, as the Baron had mentioned he was busy earlier, to which he agrees. They proceed with the tour, leaving the Great Meeting Room behind. After some time, Baron Linen Filch arrives at the Duke's office. The Duke inquires about Edith, and the Baron reports that she listened attentively and surprisingly grasped the estate structure quickly. He mentions that Edith particularly enjoyed the Sistine Hall. The Duke attentively listens, and then asks if the Baron noticed anything strange about her. The Baron replies that he hadn't noticed anything peculiar, affirming that despite rumors, Edith has proven herself to be quite worthy. Suddenly, Baron Linen Filch informs the Duke about an unfortunate incident during his walk with Edith in the meeting garden. They encountered Reese drinking tea in the company of both young masters. Upon hearing this, the Duke expresses displeasure, mentioning that he anticipated Killian getting caught in such a situation. He adds that he hadn't expected Killian to be courting another woman the morning after his own wedding, expressing disappointment in his son's actions. The Duke reminisces about the past when he compelled Killian to marry Edith to prevent Count Reigelhoff from forming an alliance with Archduke Langston. Killian asserts to the Duke that he and Edith will only be a couple on paper, emphasizing that he won't allow himself to be forced into more than that. At that moment, Baron Linen Filch interrupts the Duke and reveals that Edith didn't appear to be too concerned about Killian's interaction with Reese. This revelation visibly shocks the Duke. The Baron elaborates, mentioning that he doesn't know precisely what was happening in Edith's head at that moment, but she didn't seem upset or cause a scene. Instead, she calmly left the place as if she didn't witness anything. The Duke starts to realize that Edith might not be an ordinary person, prompting a reconsideration of his initial perceptions of her. As Edith rests in her chamber after an extensive tour of the estate, she contemplates how to forge a connection with Reese Sinclair. Reese, destined to be the protagonist of this world, had a particularly harsh life until the Duke found her. Rhys endured constant abuse from her siblings, primarily because she was the illegitimate daughter of the Sinclair family. Her life was marked by unrelenting pain and mistreatment. However, the observant nature of the Duchess caught her eye, and upon witnessing the severe abuse inflicted on the young and pure girl, both the Duke and the Duchess became angered. In response, they decided to forgive the monetary debt owed by the Sinclair family in exchange for the right to take charge of the girl's tutelage. This compassionate decision marked a turning point in Rhys's life, offering her a chance at a better future under the care of the Duke and Duchess. The Sinclair, who quickly agreed to the deal and gave up their parental authority, actually missed the opportunity to become family-in-law with the Duke. That was something that the Sinclair would regret later on. Edith thinks that in the end of the story, there's no other person as lucky as Rhys in this universe. She thinks Rhys's life was just contrary of hers. Edith's previous life was filled with bad luck from beginning to end. She was once fired from the company that she had been working for a year, and after work, she received the notice that her boyfriend was going out with another woman. Edith continues by thinking that she was just going to read a bunch of web novels when she got home, but was killed by her brother when she got home. She ponders the aftermath of her demise, wondering what her brother did after her fatal fall down the stairs. The thought of whether her parents mourned her passing crosses her mind, but she speculates that they likely cared more about her brother than the fact that she was no longer alive. As Edith gazes out of the window, she spots Rhys sitting under a tree, engrossed in a book. Rather than avoiding Rhys, Edith contemplates the idea of befriending her. However, she observes Killian approaching Rhys, inquiring about the book she's reading. Rhys reveals her decision to delve into the history of the imperial family, expressing her lack of proper education before. In a moment of vulnerability, Rhys blushes and timidly shares her uncertainty about Duke determining her future due to her limited knowledge. Killian responds with tenderness, assuring Rhys that he'd be delighted to help her with her studies. He encourages her to reach out if needed. Observing the scene from her room window, Edith anticipates the expected behavior of minor characters. She reflects on how Cliff, in a similar situation, would likely encourage living life to the fullest. As she contemplates closing the window, Edith admonishes herself for eavesdropping on others. However, her curiosity prevails when she overhears Rhys asking Killian about his wife's whereabouts. Edith listens further and hears Killian dismissively referring to her as that girl, insinuating that Edith is just a temporary presence at the mansion and will eventually disappear. The realization of Killian's low opinion of her prompts Edith to close the window, grappling with the disheartening revelation about how he perceives her in their marriage. In another county, Leela Sinclair, the youngest daughter of Count Sinclair, is seething with outrage. Her brother, Damien Sinclair, enters the room and inquires about her distress. Leela reveals her frustration, expressing disbelief and discontent over Edith's marriage to Killian. She questions why it had to be Edith Reigelhoff. Damien responds with a sarcastic remark, suggesting that collecting seemingly useless women might be a peculiar hobby of the Rudwig family. Leela then shouts at her brother, asking if he thinks it's funny, to which her brother told her that he was just excited to watch their perfect family break apart. Leela then asks Damien if he knows something. Damien, while enjoying his tea, asks Leela if she knows the reason behind the marriage of Edith and Killian, and what could have been the benefit for both families by marrying their children. He enlightens her about Count Reigelhoff's pivotal role as the largest owner of the southern mines, which grants him control over the distribution of iron ores. This, in other words, means that he has a monopoly on the raw material to produce weaponry. Leela questions Damien how is she supposed to know that. Damien tells her that she should know how the political forces are divided. He outlines the power dynamics between Archduke Langston, aspiring to become emperor, and the imperial faction supporting the young emperor. Damien emphasized that it would be very dangerous if the Archduke's side could produce weapons. Damien continues by stating that the Duchy of Rudwig was a member of the emperor's faction. That's why they had to keep Count Reigelhoff on a leash, so that he would not side with Langston. Leela, increasingly angered, demands a clearer explanation of the marriage's necessity and questions Damien's sincerity, feeling mocked by the complexities of the political chessboard. Damien tells her sister that everyone already knew about it, and tells her that this is where the fun begins. Damien, with a mischievous look on his face, asks Leela if Count Reigelhoff looks like he's on a leash. Damien reveals to his sister that one day, while moving in the corridor, he overheard Count Rigglehoff scolding his daughter for not obeying his instructions. Edith, while kneeling, apologized to his father and told him that she will never make a mistake again. As he listened to the Count's harsh words, Damien came to the realization that the haughty and arrogant image of Edith Rigglehoff was merely a fabricated lie crafted by her father. Leela was completely shocked after hearing what Damien just said. Damien told Leela that he understands it might be hard for her to believe what he said. Damien reassures Leela, emphasizing that he personally heard Count Rigglehoff scolding Edith and witnessed the truth of the situation. He further tells her that they will wait for things to develop and reveals this information at the right moment, which will become the cause of Rigglehoff family's doom. As Baron guided Edith around the vast estate, Edith couldn't help but marvel at the sheer size of the mansion. In her mind, she acknowledged that even though she had been exploring a small part each day, it had taken an entire week to see the whole place. Feeling a bit lost, Edith pondered about how to spend the remaining time of her day. Just as she was contemplating, Baron interjected and assured her that there was no need to worry. He shared that the Duchess had requested Edith's assistance for some tasks that day. Upon hearing this, a sense of joy filled Edith. The prospect of helping the Duchess with her work brought relief, as the idea of sitting idly all day was somewhat painful for her. Edith then asks the Baron for directions to her mother-in-law's office. With a warm smile, she also thanked him for the tour. The Baron was mesmerized by her beauty, but he quickly averted his gaze and told her that he had been explaining to her about the mansion for over a week. He further states that it would be embarrassing if she had forgotten everything already, to which Edith replied that she will definitely remember everything next time. After some time, Edith arrives at her mother-in-law's office and Reese is also present there. Edith tells Reese that she's looking forward to working with her, but Reese told her that she was just doing a few errands for the Duchess. Duchess interrupted them and tells them that they already gotten close. Edith apologized to the Duchess for late greetings. The Duchess then asked Reese if she could explain to Edith about the document she was organizing, to which Reese replied in positive. Engrossed in their tasks, Edith and Reese focused on their work until the Duchess mumbled to herself about an expected arrival. Curious, Edith inquired if she was waiting for someone. Reese disclosed that the Duchess was anticipating the arrival of a tailor. Connecting the dots, Edith recognized a similarity to an episode in a novel she had read before. The unexpected arrival of a tailor seemed to echo a plot point from the story. Promptly, a maid entered and informed the Duchess that the representative from the noble wardrobe had arrived and was awaiting her in the dressing room. Later, at the dressing room, Duchess thinks as she's getting older, she keeps choosing a similar design to the one she already had. The Duchess surprised Edith and Reese by requesting their opinions on choosing a dress for her. Edith, perplexed by the sudden fashion consultation, couldn't help but wonder about the reason behind it. Edith thinks that the final outcome is already clear. It's obvious that the Duchess is going to like the design that Reese picks. She further thinks after they both choose their design, the outfit presented by Reese will end up getting more praise. Recognizing the need to stay composed, Edith reminded herself that it wasn't a challenging situation. Reflecting on the circumstances, she acknowledged that Reese had been in close proximity to the Duchess for about 5 years, giving her a better understanding of the Duchess's taste. In contrast, Edith admitted that her familiarity with such clothing was limited to the illustrations she had seen in web novels. Reese confidently presented her chosen dress, describing it as a royal blue silk gown. She expressed that the design was a perfect match for someone as elegant as the Duchess. The lady tailor applauded Reese's choice, commending the selection of the fine silk and exclusive products supplied solely for nobility. Edith silently approved of Reese's choice, considering it a perfect selection. Recognizing the Duchess's radiant skin tone that complemented any color, Edith believed the royal blue dress would especially enhance the allure of the Duchess's golden hazel eyes. Just then, the Duchess asks Edith if she finds anything that she likes, to which Edith told her that it was a little difficult since Reese chose such an outstanding dress. However, Edith still presented her choice. Upon seeing Edith's suggestion, the Duchess was slightly taken aback by the unexpected choice. Edith suggested to the Duchess that trying a fresh style might be a good idea, emphasizing that the presented design could be an excellent choice. The Duchess acknowledged Edith's keen fashion sense, mentioning that it's rare to find someone who appreciates the combination of the two colors in the chosen dress. In Edith's modern perspective from the 21st century, she believed that this design would be flawlessly worn by a Duchess. The Duchess complimented the dress, but questioned Edith about its potential extravagance. Edith's thoughts confirmed her suspicions. The Duchess found the dress a bit overwhelming. However, she pondered that as people age, wearing more extravagant attire becomes necessary to exude a brighter appearance. Edith assured the Duchess that she believed the dress would perfectly complement her beauty and charisma. The Duchess, blushing slightly, appreciated the compliment and surprised Edith by deciding to order both dresses. The Duchess mentioned to Reese that she wanted to choose something for her too. However, Reese insisted she didn't need more dresses as she already had plenty. Despite Reese's protests, the Duchess ignored her and began selecting dresses for her. Edith also joined in, offering suggestions for designs that would suit Reese. Reese kept insisting that she didn't need anything, but the Duchess and Edith persisted in choosing outfits for her. Ultimately, the Duchess ordered 5 dresses for Reese, despite her initial protests. Following this, the Duchess turned her attention to Edith, encouraging her to choose a dress. However, Edith declined, expressing that she didn't need any new dresses at the moment. Edith then asks the seamstress if her workshop takes orders for mending clothes as well, to which the seamstress replies in affirmative. Edith conveyed her desire to the seamstress, expressing a wish to remove some jewelry from the dresses and to cover more of the chest area. She explained that the deep cleavage was uncomfortable for her. The seamstress agreed to Edith's requests, assuring her that the adjustments could be made. Later, walking through a corridor, Edith found herself contemplating the value she could fetch by selling the diamond beads adorning her dress. Suddenly, she noticed Killian standing in front of her chamber. She thinks that Killian didn't have a good reason to be in front of the door of her room like this. Killian approached Edith and mentioned that Reese wanted to invite her for tea. Edith, curious, wondered if this tea invitation was part of the original story. As they walked down the corridor, Edith speculated to herself that Reese likely requested Killian to fetch her. Observing Killian's back, Edith found him quite handsome. She couldn't help but notice his broad shoulders and slim waist, comparing his physique to that of a professional swimmer. This experience marked the first time she felt a seductive allure from a man's body. Lost in her thoughts, Edith was startled when Killian suddenly stopped and glanced at her, making her flinch. She questioned whether he had noticed her. Observing him, apologizing, Edith tried to explain herself. Killian, on the other hand, told her that he just wanted to warn her in advance to mind her words in front of Reese. Killian continued, expressing that Reese was like family and held a more significant place in his heart than Edith ever could. Edith, struck by his words, fell silent. Feeling hurt, she asked Killian if it brought him joy to hurt her like this. In response, Killian questioned what was wrong with talking to her in such a manner. Edith, asserting her own identity, stated that she was also a person. Killian interrupted, asking if she meant to say snake instead, deeply hurting Edith. In response, Edith questioned whether this was the proper behavior for the son of the Great Duke. Edith expressed her frustration to Killian, telling him he had ruined her mood and it seemed like he wanted to cast her as a villainess. She continued, stating that she wasn't the kind of woman easily swayed by such tactics. Killian, taken aback by her words, listened as Edith clarified that although his words had hurt her, she would consider it a separate matter. Edith then walked away, leaving Killian bewildered as he watched her leave. Later, Edith reached the great meeting garden and discovered Reese and Cliff already present. Reese greeted her warmly, and Edith responded with gratitude. Cliff then remarked that it seemed like she was adjusting well. He advised her not to overwork herself, considering she was still newly married. Cliff suggested Edith take a trip with Killian to relax. Edith informed Cliff that Killian had been quite busy lately. However, in her thoughts, she realized that Cliff might actually want Killian to accompany her on a trip, allowing Cliff to spend some private time with Reese. Killian suggested to Cliff that he should go on an inspection trip of their territory as winter was nearing its end. Cliff, seizing the opportunity, asked Reese if she could join him on the trip, since she had expressed a desire to go on one before. Killian intervened, advising Cliff not to complicate things for Reese. He urged Reese to pay no attention to Cliff's suggestions. Cliff responded to Killian's remarks, expressing concern that if he went on the trip alone, Killian might trouble Reese even more. Edith found herself in agreement with Cliff's statement, understanding the potential complications that might arise if Reese were left alone with Killian. Cliff then asked Edith for her thoughts on him being the only one leaving the mansion, leaving Reese and Killian with her in the middle. Edith's demeanor turned serious as she realized that Cliff was behaving like an obnoxious individual who enjoyed manipulating others. Despite being aware that she wasn't in a position to be loved, Cliff seemed to derive pleasure from toying with her. Edith reminded herself to stay calm, noting the lack of basic politeness among the people in the house. In response to Cliff's question about him leaving, Edith nonchalantly stated that it didn't matter to her, shocking both Killian and Cliff. She continued, asserting that as the successor, it was Cliff's duty to go for territory inspection. Edith questioned whether she even had the authority to tell him not to go and go in someone else's place. In her mind, she mocked Cliff while he sat silently, clearly confused. Edith further addressed Cliff, stating that taking Reese with him on the trip seemed a bit excessive at the moment. She pointed out that long-distance carriage travel could be tiring, and considering Reese was not Cliff's wife, it was quite a bold suggestion to make. Edith questioned whether Cliff had considered that it might be a bit burdensome. Edith suddenly noticed Reese, who was smiling like a villainess. "It seems like we are getting another trashta." Edith looked at Reese in silence, while Reese abruptly changed her expression and advised Cliff to go for a territory inspection, emphasizing it as his duty as a successor. Edith wondered what she had just witnessed, questioning if her eyes deceived her. However, she quickly pushed aside these thoughts. As night fell, Killian found himself walking on a balcony, contemplating Edith's behavior. He questioned why she was acting the way she did. Memories of her bantering with his brother earlier crossed his mind, and a smile formed on his face. As Killian stood on the terrace, someone called him from behind. Turning to see, he found Reese. She inquired about why he was alone on the terrace at night and asked if there was any problem. Killian reassured her that everything was fine. Killian shared with Reese that he heard about the new dresses she ordered. He mentioned that their mother was pleased she finally had new clothes. Reese, expressing concern, said she already had many dresses and felt sorry for causing trouble for their parents. Killian reassured her not to feel sorry, recalling how their mother used to express envy for families with daughters. He expressed gratitude to Edith for taking good care of them all this time. Reese mentioned to Killian that buying dresses for Edith would have made her happier, since she is his wife. Perplexed, Killian asked Reese what she meant. Reese then revealed that Edith hadn't bought a single dress. Instead, she had only altered the original dresses she brought to the duchy. Reese explained that Edith spent her time helping the Duchess and her to choose dresses. This revelation surprised Killian. Killian found it hard to believe Reese's words, considering Edith was known for never wearing a dress more than once. Suddenly, Killian became angry, suggesting that Edith's behavior indicated she was disgusted with buying a dress there. He then asked Reese if it was acceptable to buy a dress for his mother and her there. Reese was stunned by his reaction and assured Killian that Edith didn't mean anything by it. Killian expressed surprise that Edith didn't like the 8-layer dress, considering she had worn a seemingly vulgar dress at the wedding. He noted that Edith had suddenly started wearing only modest clothes, and remarked that she didn't seem to be irritating him much that day. As Killian suddenly remembered Edith's earlier gaze, he felt a sharp pain in his head. Reese noticed his distress, but felt unsure of how to help in such situations. She asked if he hated Edith so much. Killian responded by likening Edith to a snake, suggesting that while she may seem harmless now, she would eventually reveal her venomous nature when everyone least expected it. Reese, outraged by Killian's remarks about Edith, questioned his state of mind. Meanwhile, Killian pondered finding something that suited Edith's shallow taste. He realized he needed to look for a different clothing shop for her to maintain the integrity of the Rudwig family. The next day, Anna informed Edith that they were almost out of the perfume and lotion she typically used. Anna asked if she should call the perfumer and the cosmetics merchant to restock. Edith looked at Anna with a puzzled expression. In her thoughts, Edith considered that it was obvious these items needed to be replaced at some point, but she realized she should use her own money to buy them. However, she questioned how she should use her money, especially since her position in this world was unstable. Additionally, she hadn't even exchanged the diamond beads removed from her dress yet, adding to her financial uncertainty. She questioned herself whether, despite being part of the noble family now, it was truly acceptable for her to purchase luxury cosmetics and perfumes using their money. Edith reminisced about her previous life, where she focused solely on saving money and never allowed herself to spend it. She recalled hiding in the toilet to use a worn-out lipstick. Edith then realized that there was no need for her to do those things in her current life. She understood that her past actions were likely due to not receiving any love, and she didn't want others to see her in that vulnerable state. Edith resolved to enjoy what she could in her reincarnated life and decided to try some luxurious cosmetics, reminiscent of those in a romantic novel. With determination, she instructed Anna to call the perfumer, to which Anna agreed. A few minutes later, various bottles of perfume were laid out on the table in Edith's room. With a bewildered expression, Edith questioned someone about what he had just said. It turned out that a few minutes earlier, a perfumer had come to her room and smelled the perfume Edith uses. He informed her that it was the finest rose-scented perfume in all their repertoire, and that the aroma was perfectly suitable for young people. The perfumer explained that the scent was a combination of the light, fresh, and grassy aroma of Ashley roses, along with a particular type of wild strawberries, blended together to create the exquisite scent. He mentioned that it was possible to include other accents of scent if Edith desired. Curious about the price of the perfume as it was, Edith inquired. The perfumer informed her that it would be a total of 90,000 zenas. This revelation shocked Edith, as she realized that just one bottle of perfume was equivalent to 90,000 zenas, which was more than double her usual income in her previous life. Sensing Edith's distress, and asked the man if there were any other types of rose-scented perfumes available. The man replied that the most common type used for perfume is the Titania rose, known for its heavy and concentrated scent, which is what one would typically imagine when thinking of the aroma of roses. Edith couldn't help but think that the man was acting just like a cliché salesperson from a big shop in her previous life. The man then informed her that the other perfumes would cost around 200,000 zenas. Edith was devastated after hearing the price. She then told the man that she was going to stick to the original scent and didn't want to change it. Anna advised Edith to try a mixed scented perfume of Nathaniel roses with the Ashley roses. She explained that while she understood Edith's desire to stick to a familiar scent, now that she's married, it wouldn't be a bad idea to switch to a deeper scent. The man also praised Anna's choice and told Edith that it would only cost her 130,000 zenas. Edith asked the man if he could let her have it for 120,000 zenas, which shocked both Anna and the man. The man explained to Edith that there would be no profit for him if he sold the perfume at such a price. Undeterred, Edith proposed 120,500 zenas. The man remained silent, bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. Edith explained to the man that she didn't want people to criticize her for spending too much money as soon as she got married. She promised him that in exchange for the discounted price, she would call him the next time she needed more perfume. Although hesitant at first, the man acknowledged that Killian had found himself a clever wife. In the end, he had no choice but to trust Edith's words and accept the deal. After some time, Edith sat in her chamber, tears streaming down her face. She felt overwhelmed knowing that she had spent around 150,000 of her money on just one perfume bottle and a brush. She worried that at this rate she would lose her sense of the value of money. Reflecting further, she realized that she couldn't even buy the things she truly wanted because she hesitated all the time. Edith understood that her secret funds amounted to just a few cents compared to the prices in this world. She questioned herself, feeling pathetic despite having money, yet unable to spend it recklessly. Edith reminisced about her past life, recalling the fights she had with her older brother over money. Suddenly, she stretched to relax herself, pushing away the negative thoughts. She reminded herself to savor the luxury of spending money like this, but she also acknowledged that amidst all the special things money could buy, there were also things that money couldn't buy. Edith suddenly remembered something important and informed Anna that she was going to the Sistine Hall. She assured Anna that she would be back shortly. Anna replied with a simple yes in acknowledgement. Later, Edith arrived at the Sistine Hall and was awestruck by its immense size. She couldn't help but marvel at the grandeur of the entire hall, feeling as if it were an art museum just for her. In that moment, she realized that she didn't need those expensive perfumes when she had the opportunity to experience real luxury right there in the Sistine Hall. Edith then looks at the pictures and admires them, as the color of the light breaking into the painting is beautiful. As she moved down the hall, she came across a large painting of a warrior riding a horse. She couldn't help but feel both horrified and captivated by the painting's gloriously intense depiction. After sightseeing for a while, Edith decided to rest by sitting down on the floor. Suddenly, someone called out to her from behind, remarking on her unconventional posture for appreciating artworks. Edith turned around to find Killian standing there. She questioned him about what brought him to the Sistine Hall. Killian responded by asking if there was anything strange about him coming to appreciate the pieces of art displayed in his own house. Killian further told Edith that he didn't think Rigelhoff were interested in art. He speculated that perhaps she was in that position because she got overwhelmed by all the magnificent things displayed in the room and collapsed. In her mind, Edith questioned why he was picking a fight again. She told him that it was just as he said. She genuinely felt overwhelmed by the art. She questioned how just a single piece of art like this could contain so many people's emotions. Edith explained how the painting depicted the misery and tragedy of war. Just by looking at the male warrior in the picture, she could sense his eagerness to end such tragedy. Furthermore, he didn't seem to seek praise from others, demonstrating that war was not something to be content about at any moment. Killian remained silent after hearing Edith's remark. He then told her that the piece of art was made to commemorate the victory of his grandfather in the war against the Yannick kingdom. Edith was surprised to realize that the model of the painting was none other than Killian's grandfather himself. Killian asked her if she actually didn't know that it was his grandfather, to which Edith replied with a simple yes. Killian asked her why she came to this place, as he had never heard that she enjoyed art before. Edith, while trying to stand, replied that it's normal for preferences to change as one grows older. Killian further inquired about her favorite artist, to which Edith apologized and admitted that since she had just started to get interested in art, she didn't know any artists. He asked if she didn't even know one, to which she confirmed, mentioning that as he knows well, Rigelhoffs aren't much interested in art. For a moment, Killian was mesmerized by her beauty. Just then, Edith noticed a painting of a young man. As she moved towards the painting, Killian told her that when he was young, at the request of a painter who was close to his father, he didn't have a choice but to serve as a model for that painting. Edith couldn't help but think that she didn't even ask him anything about it. Killian asked Edith why she was looking at the painting like that. Edith told him that it was nothing. He asked again what she was looking at so much, and she replied with nothing specific. She then moved away from Killian and told him that he had a rather small one in the painting. Killian looked at her with a puzzled expression, but as he realized what she was talking about, he blushed with shame and told her that he's not the body model for the painting. Edith responded with a subtle sure. Killian then asked her if she didn't think it's obvious that there's no way the son of a noble would have shown his naked body like that in front of an artist. Edith replied with a simple sure and told him that she didn't even say anything in the first place. Killian, blushing profusely, told Edith that it was impossible to have a proper conversation about art with someone like her. He then turned around to leave, while Edith laughed behind him. After Killian left the scene, Edith couldn't stop laughing and thought that there's no way she could have moved on with her life without playing that joke on Killian. After a few seconds, Edith stood there silently and thought something. She then moved back to see the painting again and remarked that Killian must have a bigger one now than he had in his childhood.